Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 514, and today we're doing battle with Bard Janna. And so before we dive into Bard Janna, a couple of quick things to talk about for the daily followers. Riot has posted the upcoming schedule for the release of the new set, The Fates Voyage Beyond. The Mordekaiser video was released yesterday, and then the remainder of the spoilage is noted here. I assume that they're going to note a champion a day, and then do the full reveal on November the 30th. I believe that the spoiler season is kind of pushed together and released a little bit early due to Worlds. I think that the expansion goes live on the 6th, and then Worlds may actually be on the 9th, which I think is pretty good. I think is pretty awesome in the sense that it really builds up the hype of the new set, and then that gets to tie into the hype for Worlds to have this really big hype style of moment. But nonetheless, in terms of the content for the channel, we'll be playing standard over the course of the next couple of days. The current gauntlet is free build, so I won't play that format. I don't enjoy it. Next week, we'll see what kind of happens. You know, I plan to probably do like 3 or 4 set reveal videos, just like one for each faction or one for each champion or whatever. Then there's typically some like varietal stuff that gets attached that we can talk about otherwise. And then that just leaves 2 or 3 days of gameplay in there, along with the Champion Draft Series event that will be there next week as well. And so I suspect we'll get 2 or 3, maybe 4 more battles with Bust in, and then of course once the expansion goes live on December the 6th, we'll crash pretty hard into that up through the kind of Christmas season. And so sounds pretty good to me. Like to keep people updated on what's coming, and that is that. And so, jumping back here, Bard Janna, this is a deck that made a bit of a splash as the set was initially released and people were trying to figure out how to best use Janna. And it turns out that putting a bunch of chimes in your deck and then just drawing a whole bunch of cards is a fairly effective way to actually get those chime draws, right? If you shuffle 15 chimes into your deck and draw 1 card, you're not super likely to actually pop any of the chimes. But if you shuffle 15 chimes into your deck and then draw 5 cards, you're much more likely to hit those bonus effects. And so the initial kinds of versions of this deck from the formats of old were really looking to use things like Boom Baboon and Flame Chompers so that you could get the Flame Chompers boosted in hand and then have that nice kind of free attacky unit on the board. But at the end of the day, those decks weren't that super strong. But as we did approach the open here just a few days ago, one of the decks that was kind of on my radar was Bard Janna. It's a deck that has a fairly effective win rate against other PNZ decks. PNZ not being that strong at destroying big units. As we put the chimes onto our units, we have big units, and it makes it more challenging for them to come in and remove them with the likes of Mystic Shots and Divine Whirlwinds and the like. And so, as this deck stands, there tends to be 2 distinct flavors of it. One, which plays Bursting Backpack. I'll go ahead and tell you now, Bursting Backpack is absolute garbage. And then this more unit-focused version that we're bringing here today. It has much more early game focus with the Chime Slimes and the Mariams, and then a higher removal package that you would typically see out of the Bursting Backpack package. But then at the end of the day, it has more elusives in it, and we're probably going to be finishing off these games with big Acorns, big Augmented Clocklings, or big Flipped Jannas, as opposed to trying to take a puff cap based route. And so, in terms of some of these specific choices within this deck, I do still really like the 2/3 units for 2 mana in this format. So we have a nice collection of Chime Slimes and Mariams to help stall the early game, get us up to that turn 5 point, to where we can play Janna on turn 4, draw 2 cards on turn 5, and then start spewing off the Windboard Mariners and the Exalted Cloudwinders, get our units down on the cheap, and really get the deck up and running. The big thing that this deck does play that you don't always see within the Bursting Backpack versions is going to be the Sunken Temple. Sunken Temple is kind of game plan part 2. I don't really like envisioning our gameplay strategy to be getting a bunch of units on the board, and then getting Bard on the board, and then getting Sunken Temple on the board, and then trying to attack a turn after that. That's just like way too Magical Christmas Landy for me. That's just way too much stuff that has to go right without your opponent doing anything, just to get like an 8/8 Augmented clockling. But what is very kind of realistically possible for this is we have like a Janna on board, and we're having that kind of classical Janna control kind of thing, to where we're just drawing a ton of cards, removing our opponent's units, and then getting in a little bit of chip damage. And then kind of within that same realm of Janna stuff, the Sunken Temple can tie in to help fuel us in terms of keeping the card advantage going. And then the kind of part B of this deck is Bard plus the elusives. And so whenever we try to kind of develop our boards and develop our hands and how the game is going to flow, we typically come in and kind of decide, okay, this is going to be kind of an aggressive Bard-based elusive style of game, to where we're going to try and deal damage with the elusives and then finish off with burn, or this is going to be a more kind of control-y, Janna, Sunken Temple-y kind of game, to where we're going to win through card advantage and chip damage. And so those are the kind of like distinctions I like to make with what's happening with this deck. Sure, you will have some games to where you play Bard into Sunken Temple and you just get all that nonsense going, but that's much more the rarity than it is the norm. The last thing I like to call out with this deck is we do have a couple of copies of Cosmic Binding in here. You don't see it too frequently, but there are a lot of big kind of Freylord-based OTK type strategies running around, and a bunch of dragon-based might type strategies. And so we do have to have an answer to a mighted not exalted Cloudwinder, a mighted exalted Flame Spitter. Is there that many exalted units around? We got the exalted Cloudwinder. I can never remember the name of the dragon. But nonetheless, if there's a 12 power overwhelm unit coming at you, you need to be able to stun it, whether or not that is a bone clubbed Wildclaw Ferocity, or if that's a big ass dragon that has a might attached to it. We need the stun access from the Cosmic Binding to be able to slow those things down. It's certainly not enough to just say, oh boy, I stunned your big unit, I win the game, but it should be able to buy us enough time to get a couple of more turns active and really get the card draw effects of this deck up and running. And so that's the deck. That's what we're doing battle with today. I did check in on the pay-to-win price. We're pretty good here. Everything is all premium except for the Sunken Temple. I usually don't go out of my way to upgrade the epics, and so it kind of is what it is. But yeah, as we were, getting kind of hyped up for the release of the next set, I don't think that there's an open event in December. I think that this was a thing that came up last year, and I remember a bit of the competitive community being up in arms, right? We always have to have something to be up in arms about, and I'm pretty certain that that was a thing. That Worlds is the kind of competitive event for December, and then with the holiday season for whatever religion you subscribe to, or Santa Claus time. A lot of rioters are off. I think that Riot also just completely takes a week off during December, get that well-deserved break-in towards the end of the year. And so I think that that's a thing as well. I might be wrong in that sense, but December isn't super active in those senses. All right, but back to the action here. Up against Maokai Nautilus, a little bit of deep coming at us. This is a fairly problematic matchup, and this is kind of a pain point here. And so I am going to go ahead and attack with Mariam. If he was going to let us Eye of the Storm down the Sea Scarab, this would have been very powerful, but he opts to just take the 2 damage, and that's fine. So this should be a fairly tough match. A lot of this game, kind of comes down to whether or not he's able to hit these Sea Scarabs early, and he has managed to do it. And so we're going to have to kind of try and pivot just a little bit here. I'm fine to pick up the Howling Gale. It's something we'll play a little bit later, but I want to get the elusive on board so we can actually attack, and then we'll play a Sunken Temple this turn. Try and get the big plays flowing, if you will. But yeah, this is a bit of a pain point. We haven't even interacted with any of his Sea Scarab-based units, but it feels like this is going to be a real struggle of a game. We need to get some elusives on board with Chimes. All right, all the bards popping up. birds. Hey, look at all these chimes hitting. All these card draws rolling through. Feels good. So we did hit one elusive in Acorn, but otherwise a kind of awkward hand here. Our Bard is fairly close to flipping, which will be important for the next turn. The big thing that we're going to be looking to do here is I want to get Bard on board to ensure that he's about to flip, and as we hit more chimes, we want those chimes to hit our actual active units. And then we need to get Acorn down as a way to try and hit those Bard things onto combat effective units. Right, Bard's not a combat effective unit in this match. He's gonna get a sapling off of this Maokai, and then he's not gonna be able to do anything. That's a bit of a bummer. I guess I saw the Explorer come on board, and I was like, yeah, I don't really care about that. And then I had to stop and think, is like, oh yeah, I guess I guess our landmark is done for. That's okay. He cycled through 2 Ruinations as well. I have to assume he doesn't have any more of those. So interesting draw with the Clockling coming in. I mean, our Bard's not flipped. Our combat is okay. I'd kind of like to get the Clockling on board. We can still, like, churn off some spells this turn. The bummer is we can't get like the formula down if we want to drop the Cloudwinder. Let's just start with the Mariner. See what happens.
Wait, you? Oh, I love that for you.
Like, we're never going to win the game this attack anyways. We might be able to win it 2 attacks from now. Alright, Dredgers comes in. Here's a Clockling. We could just go for Janna. She seems like a reasonable add this turn. We're going to attack with all these units and something is going to die. There's a very real chance that that she can come on board next turn and have those updrafts matter. But with this, I'm just going to let the Bard die. We can play the second Bard that we have in hand. And so it's not like we're completely limited in terms of what the Chimes can potentially do. So as long as we don't die here, I think we'll be okay. He really, like, even with a Nautilus, I feel like we're kind of safe. He really needs to drop a Maokai and have a Watery Grave to take us down next turn. That's not what that was. Is there ever a world where he doesn't attack? Probably. I'll give that a probably. So let's just go ahead and overwrite. Don't really want the Mariner or the Chime Slime. We'll keep the Cloudwinder just to ensure we have another card draw card. And I think that's okay. I think we'll leave Bard at home. If he's going to have another Devourer of the Depths next turn, I want Bard to have the full health.
Thought there was more.
Together we shall watch over those who need us.
All right, let's see what happens.
Storm unrelenting.
Only 2 Chimes rolled in. Bard is about to flip, but I think we can pretty safely add in the Clockling and then just formula a ton of times. Sure, we'll take the Windborn Mariner. He'll be free. We could potentially be flipping Janna this turn. I guess she does seem kind of far away, needing like 7 flips, but we'll see what happens with the unit growth after we play all these formulas. How many cards we got? 9, so this will take us up to 10. Not quite as much as I was hoping for. It didn't really land on our elusives in this space. Kind of a bummer. Little bummer, you know, not big bummer. Yeah, he didn't play the keel breaker. I didn't even realize that all this shit just blasted through. So it kills everything except Bard. Okay, that's fine. We got some big boys in hand still, and we can eliminate some of his units here. Not bad. Not a bad set of hits. Like, I mean, I guess it is. He's down very low in terms of cards in hand, but pretty strong set of units to roll through.
Let's go again.
So let's go ahead and take Dum Dum off the board. I mean, the thing with his hand right now is he's only going to have 10 mana, right? He doesn't have any spell mana banked up. And so if he does start adding Plate Worms to the board, I think we can get wide enough to stop it. Maybe not. So Bard survives now. How does our Jesus fold here? We're not going to hit on the Mariner, so we can stop. But now he's only got 5 mana. He can add in the Plate Worms, but we're only going to take damage off of one of them. I think they only deal like 7 or something. That's close. Not a bad guess, you know. Alright, so that'll drop us to 2. And then we're pretty close to burning him out. Just go ahead and drop the gotcha. It's not going to affect our mana for next turn. Now, the thing with this, I don't want to be super all in with our Acorn, right? He hasn't played any Vengeances yet. I haven't really been watching for them, but I don't want to just assume that we're like okay here, given that he could have something like Vengeance. So here we can't quite add Janna. We could look to, say, stun a unit and then Divine Whirlwind the Maokai, just to help ensure that we get try and get a Bard attack in this turn. Like if he Watery Graves, it's okay. I'm curious to see if he just stops the 6 mana here or if he plays the Plate Worm. This should make it kind of apparent as to what's going to happen. If he's just sitting on Vengeance or if he's going to add the Plate Worm to the board. And then we can still beat Watery Grave this turn. Right? Is that factual? I just assumed at this stage all of our hand was going to be free. And that doesn't seem to be the case.
I cannot be broken.
So no Vengeance. There's the watery grave. Yeah. That's tough. Like, if we'd been monitoring his deck, we could have kind of thought about how we wanted to do it in the sense of, hang on, we can still do this. We're not dead yet. We can Janna and then updraft 1. So we probably just, I guess we could just get rid of the Howling Gale or the Eye of the Storm. We're still short in terms of lethal though, right? Before we get too hype about this. So that's the answer. Yes, we have the way out of this. We can Janna for 1 card so we don't draw 2, but then we only have 5 damage for next turn. Okay, GG. That's tough. Like, if we'd been actively tracking his deck and knew about the status of Vengeances, then we could have played that turn a little bit differently. But without that knowledge, it was kind of meh. kind of meh there. Tough to know if we should, just be going for it or if we're going to have enough to survive. Nonetheless, GG. I think that was that's a very tough matchup for us to actually take down and to be in the space of the space of the near lethal right at the end is pretty good. One of the other perks for that game is I played quite a bit of things like Caitlyn Teemo a couple of seasons ago. When Caitlyn Teemo is still a pretty good matchup against Nyla Janna, and you just run into these like really weird games against decks like Deep when you have to decide on when to start putting a bunch of puff caps into their deck, because then they can come back in and cycle the puff caps away. Right, they can toss the puff caps out of the deck, and so it can be a very weird situation to be in. So here, a bit of an awkward draw. Hopefully we have a better play this turn than just dropping Windborn Mariner on the board. We don't. I think we probably still want to go for it. Well, I could be convinced to just play Gotcha instead. Like, just dropping the Mariner and having it die doesn't feel like a very powerful turn. But Clockling should be good here. Opponent hasn't played any Explorers yet. Not a dirty Explorer user like the previous opponent. Might be able to pop off with this Sunken Temple. We'll have to see. So we'll go ahead and pick up Bard. The plan is to open attack and then play Sunken Temple on this next turn. And then hopefully we can pop off from there. See if he's got a Temple as well. He's got a Sett. Alright. So some Mariners and some Birds. No Chimes yet. Now they're starting to fall. Play a bunch of stuff on the cheap this round. Oh, and Janna turns up. And then another Mariner at the end of the day. Wow, it's time. It's time to go. So let's see. We're gonna play Janna. We don't need the Cosmic Inspiration. I'm leaning towards just getting rid of the Divine Whirlwind. Because here we're gonna play the Mariner, and then the 2-mana Bird. I think we definitely want to be drawing the cards next turn. We'll send away Howling Gale. We're not going to play either of these. I wonder if we should be Whirlwinding this turn just to get the Sett off of the board. But man, I just want to reload on mana so bad. The thing that does worry me here, though, would just be getting popped by a Rocket Barrage. Like, I have a hard time remembering that these decks aren't the Seraphine one, and they can just play multiple copies of Rocket Barrage. But he has one come in, that's fine. We got to save our second Mariner. Still get to draw an ass load of cards next turn. Hopefully it looks good. Alright, Chimes, Line, Acorn, Bard, Howling Gale, another bird. Lots of good stuff. So as far as this turn goes, I am going to want to get Bard down, right? As we've been able to kind of churn through with the Sunken Temple, we're bound to start hitting more Chimes, and you want to get double value out of the Chimes if you can. Also, I would like to get the Cloudwinder down. I'm just going to go ahead and lead with the Cloudwinder. I think we'll be attacking with it. The question is going to be, do we actually attack with Bard?
Hey, Meg, whip up anything
He's spending a lot of mana here.
Grit. It's got cherries.
So let's try and get Sett down. He's the unit we actually care about. I'm going to say I wouldn't be surprised to see him get tagged out or something. But with this, he didn't play his coin yet. So if he does have tag out, he's not going to be able to play the coin and refill the mana. We definitely want to Mystic Shot with the Notify on the stack so we can't get access to these 3 manas here. Now we can swing in. If I had more experience with the deck, I would be able to decide a bit more with Bard, right? I feel like we're, you know, really just about to pop off with Bard. And having him fall in health can be a little bit scary. But I guess we do need to hit 5 Chimes before he's going to start delivering the bonuses. Alright, though. Not bad. A million cards in hand always feels good. Karma comes in. We're gonna kill Karma. Just FYI, the spells are about to come down. It's just a matter of the ones that we want to use. I mean, I guess we don't really have a ton. We just have the Howling Gale at this point. So what's going to happen here? We're going to open attack next turn. So let's do this. Let's add in the Chime Slime. And I guess it's still pretty tough for us to get this Bard to flip. But he's got to do it at some point, you know. Now we can try and take down this Karma. If this gets denied, it's not the end of the world. I still feel like we're in pretty good shape, even if this gets stopped. Tag out, sure. She coming right back. Ooh, Rocket Barrage. Let's see what happens. Pray up a little bit to RNGesus, you know? see what he's got to say about this. Oh, we didn't get any extra plants? That sucks. Okay. I had high hopes for what was going to happen there. It was very very unimpressive. Oh, now we're losing all of our hard work on those Chimes. I'm seeing some big stats roll in though. We got a 7/7 Clockling, and then the Bard is here as well. So I'm leaning towards just like a Bard double Clockling. I don't think he plays Karma this turn. I don't know. Maybe he does. He played. It's just so odd that you saw like Karma come down last turn. That typically just indicates they have 2 Karmas, right? They're just going to play a second one, and so I was kind of surprised to see her get recalled in that space, since you know, she's not a particularly strong play. Now with the free Howling Gale, we can definitely look to take this Karma off the board. Now, one thing I didn't make note of, we can show it off as we play the second Augmented Clockling. You can see the cards on your predict and see if they have any Chimes attached to them. And so We'll let this Howling Gale roll through. Well, I guess we're not going to be playing our Clockling now that we need to actually get the Karma off of the board. But you can see it. We'll see if we can't play one before the game's over, before the video was done. Big ass chunk of damage rolling through though. Gotta feel good about that. But yeah, if you're in that spot here, you know, towards this stage of the game to where we're trying to load up Chimes onto our units, say that we needed to make like a big all-in thing in the middle of combat or something, if you have access to the predict, you could go through, see which card has the most Chimes on it, and then use use that as the means to determine which card you're going to take. All right, though. Taking him down. That has to, as far as that game goes, it doesn't really matter what deck you're playing. If you have a Sunken Temple on the board on turn 5, and then it's still on the board on turn 10, you should win that game regardless of what's happening. Getting to draw 5 extra cards and then probably gain like 15, 16 mana over the course of the game. It's just, if it gets to come down and sit, you should just be winning that game as it is. All right, up against Deep again. This deck's so dumb. I'm curious what happens in terms of rotation here in the upcoming months. If they're going to do another rotation in the sense of, is it going to be like a yearly thing? Because it feels like the last one was a bit odd in some places, like with the cards they kept and the cards that they removed. I know that you have to kind of think in terms of the future set coming out, and you know, let's say like the one of the big kind of contention points is in Shadow Isles and the themes with Diana and Nocturne. What's that? Nightfall. But they took like half of the Nightfall cards out of the game, and it was just you know, like I'm curious if, you know, there's going to be any Nightfall thematics in this upcoming set, or if they had to just keep those champions in so that there would be a nice balance of champions across all of the factions, just in terms of numbers. But I'd love to see like Scouts go, and I'd love to see things like Deep go. These decks that have been mainstays of the game since the release of the Rising Tides. I think that's the kind of stuff you'd like to see ushered out in rotation to just replace with something a little bit fresher. As much as I love Scouts, I feel like it's it's just something that, you know, probably needs to go. All right, but here in this space, I noted he did lose a Culling Strike, so maybe our Janna will be safe. She's just definitely safe because he doesn't have the cards now. That's always a perk. And we're definitely going to be looking to get the Sunken Temple on board this turn. So if we want to attack, we have to do it right now. I think that's safe enough. We'll see if he comes down and interacts with Janna. Like if he blocks Janna and then plays a damage spell on her, I don't quite care that much. Mainly just interested in the temple here. We could look to take the Maokai down with the Eye of the Storm. I don't think he's that important. At least on this turn. Now that we're going to be rolling into next turn with the Sunken Temple on the board and we get to draw 100 cards, we will have a lot more opportunities just to outright kill Maokai. Right. Lots of Chimes rolling through. Picking a good time to do it. You gotta appreciate that. Sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and lead off with the Howling Gale. I don't want to add a unit to the board just to have it get hooked by the sapling. And we kind of need to see if he's going to take a bunch of time just passing in this spot, right? So that was completely fine for me. So we'll add in the Mariner, we'll add in the Acorn, we'll add in the Clockling. See where that gets us. Everything we have is going to cycle away here, so no need to get too excited about what gets added to our hand. Probably just want to cheapen up Eye of the Storm. Oh, we should have played those in a different order, huh? We should have played the Clockling first. Could have looked at those chimes as well. Maybe we'll maybe we'll do that at some point. You know, it was kind of an ugly draw.
Dusting off the fisticuffs.
Okay, nice chunk of damage. I mean, it's very realistic for us to be in burn range from 7.
Janna, I beg you, reveal my path to me.
Place your faith.
I'm not going to be
in me,
playing
and
Howling Gales this
destiny
turn, but I think it's okay. It's another kind of spot where I'm, you know, uncertain of the updraft that we did. We have a lot of cards that we would like to cheapen up, but I think it's okay. I guess with Janna and the Temple on board, it doesn't super matter since everything in hand is just going to get updrafted away anyways.
Storm unrelenting.
All right, there's our Bard. He's nice and flipped. Opponent hits deep, don't really care about that.
Wind need not be seen to move our world.
Leap of faith, huh? You'll catch me, right?
And the Slaughter Docks, sure thing. So we're not going to get killed here. That's all that really matters. The thing that's kind of interesting as to whether or not we need to play Cosmic Binding. I don't think we do. We take like 13 damage on the round.
Rethink your choices.
Don't want to lose Janna. Don't want to lose Bard. All to 2. Okay.
Together we shall watch over those who need us. Lift us up upon your mighty wings, old friend.
All right, let's pop off.
The Zephyr
We are lacking in elusives here, which is a bit of a bummer. Janna has the potential to get close, but the thing we have to start to worry about is if we come in and add a bunch of elusives to the board, is if opponents are going to be able to play something like the Ruination. What's Janna at? She needs 4. How do we stand in terms of spells? We can do Formula, we can do Bard Thing, but Bard Thing isn't reduced in cost, and then we have Eye of the Storm. Let's still see if we can't get her to flip.
Cast aside fear. I am with you.
There's another Formula. Alright, stuff has happened. Why didn't you flip? We played 7. God, this game's dumb. Now we have to, well, we have to Eye of the Storm, right?
By my winds shall the downtrodden rise. My wind is at head back. Go.
Why aren't our units bigger? I feel like our units should be gigantic at this point. They're not very gigantic with what we have on board. But again, like, I don't think we can if we just start playing cards and he hits us with the Ruination, I think we outright lose the game. And so I think we should be able to get in with either one of Janna or the Acorn. Like, he's just gonna Vengeance Janna. We still get to hit for 7 with Acorn. And I think I'm pretty fine with that. As far as these other combats go, we're winning most of it. Let's just go ahead and Whirlwind the Sea Scarab. That'll take him to 4 and preserve our unit. We have 1 Mystic Shot in hand. Hopefully that's enough. So we get to draw a ton of cards. We've already played 1 Mystic Shot, right? We played Mystic Shot on like turn 3 or turn 4 to shoot down a what's it called? To shoot down a Sea Scarab. All right, let's see what happens. I mean, he can, we can definitely miss, and he can definitely play another Undergrowth to tick up in health a little bit, but feels like we should be in pretty decent shape. Our Bard's out here doing the work now, making some stat monsters. We gotta get Meduli on the board or something, right? This is basically just having Meduli. Only picked up 1 damage though. We have a bit of card draw, should it come down to that, but 9 cards left. Here's the Maokai, sure. Oh, we can just we can try to kill Maokai. It's not super likely that we'll get to counter a flip, but I mean, I think he's already jettisoned this game. He may not have the toss in hand at this speed. Oof. Vroom vroom. Now if he plays another Maokai, he doesn't have the mana to play Watery Grave. It's just gonna be cards we don't care about. I can live with that. Yep. Yeah, we do. we do have to be kind of careful in the sense we don't want to. We don't want to kill ourselves with. We don't want to kill ourselves with the decking and playing Jannas and stuff, but I think we're okay. We got 3 cards left. We'll draw 2 on this next turn. 1 from Janna, 1 from the draw, 1 from the temple. That should leave us at 0. All right, we got it. GG. Well played. On to the next one. This is going to be our final battle, as we've played against the control decks every time. These games have been a bit grindy and a bit slow. We haven't come up to that 8-game mark in quite a while in terms of getting in 8 games in a single video. We gotta get Decimate back in the format. Get the aggros out here and happening. Here's the aggros. Gwen Riven. So let's see. We definitely got to stay a little bit lower to the ground here. I think with this, we could probably do Janna and the Mariner. I just worry that if we're going to try and play free Mariner on turn 5, that's going to be too slow. But we might realistically need to just play it on turn 2. I don't like doing that. I hate spending the mana when it should be coming in for free, but sometimes you just got to do it. Okay. Well, if he's not doing anything.
The past is a burden we must learn to bear.
I was like, oh my gosh, is our Mariner gonna hit a stat and be able to get in front of Riven? How sick was that gonna be? That was gonna be sick. It didn't come together, but okay, he had a quick attack fragment anyways. Nice he had to burn the fragment at this point, though, to worry about putting a Mariner block in front of Riven and then having a burn spell the next turn. Alright, so here I'm not worried about keeping Janna's. It should be tough for him to deal with. So let's just get rid of Janna. We'll get rid of the gotcha. That might be too greedy in the sense that adding Sunken Temple to the board is a pretty big ask. But I think I'm okay with it. I mean, he hasn't been picking up Halloweds. And so it's not like he's going to have a big OTK style of attack on this turn. And if we can just fight through this turn, getting Temple on board is huge. Picked up some really choice burn spells as well.
Where do I start?
Now this is kind of an interesting spot. Our health total is very high. Like I do really like this Cosmic Binding. Being able to stun Gwen and deal the damage to the Prodigy. That feels fairly safe. Otherwise, I mean, he is at 0 in terms of Hallowed, so we could just block Gwen with Janna. That feels fairly scary, though.
Beware, doldrums cause cabin fever.
Is this where we stop? We can play gotcha as well, but I think if we're going to gotcha the Butler, we would rather do that in combat. So he doesn't get the Hallowed bonus over onto Riven. And it's like his lowest value unit here. Say maybe we just block Riven and look to play gotcha later.
Wind need not be seen to move our world.
Leap of faith, huh? You'll catch me, right?
Right. Something like that's legit.
Storm unrelenting.
Howling Gale is pretty tempting. So our Janna's at 4. Well, we're just gonna be Howling Galing Gwen, right?
Guess we're doing this the ugly way.
Let's do this. Let's just send in these two.
Cut to the chase.
Oh, he's gonna re-Gwen, huh? He's got a fresh Gwen in hand. I can't fight through that. That's a bit of a bummer. But it still feels very, very safe and healthy on this turn. I think we're good to add in the Sunken Temple. We can just block everything next turn.
Who are you?
He should be pretty far away from OTKs. Like, the dragon is kind of scary, being able to dragon onto the one Mariner, then hook the other Mariner with a Whirlwind, or with a Might. But it feels like that's our opening to get the Temple on board. Alright, so he doesn't have the dragon play. He can get the flipped Riven this turn. She's been on board for a million rounds, but I don't think we get lethaled here.
Make these pieces whole.
Looking for just a free burn spell here. Janna, Acorn, Clockling. These don't do anything, so we can just skip, see if we high roll into a gotcha or something. Learn from the master, my friends. Learn from the master. Come in and just high rolled right into the Cosmic Binding. LOL. That's what life's about. That's what it's about. Now, granted, I don't think we would have lost this turn, but that was a pretty choice a pretty choice action. Okay, so we'll get a Gwen flip out of this. Still not out of the woods yet. That was a very nice sequence for us, but we're not threatening lethal on him, and he looks scary as fuck at this point. It's got the flipped Riven and the flipped Gwen, and we don't have a ton of ways to come in and interact with them. So I'm not super pleased with this board. We did just pick up a bunch of stats with this 10-10 Cloudwinder, though. Say, all right, I'm ready to block. I'll see your might and offer you up one more, one greater.
Dusting off the fisticuffs.
So let's send. I'm not like excited about this. He gets to block with the Squire and then potentially hit another Overwhelm fragment to put onto Gwen. I guess he's gonna have like 2 shots at it anyways, so that's kind of a thing for him. But we'll see. And we didn't have the mana to get 2 spells down. So all right, we get to draw an extra 5 cards this turn. Let's see if any of the big removals roll through. No Bard on board though to help boost our in play friends. Right, well, we hit a ton of chimes. For whatever that's worth, we did that. He hit the overwhelm. Oh, I thought he was going to give us the action and not immediately hit. So where does this get us? We're not lethal with this. We have Mystic Shot in hand. We got to draw some cards. Gotcha's good. Elixir of Wrath. So it's going to take down our big boy, but it's not going to be enough to get the lethal. I'm okay with that. Now, how do we ever lose this game? Like, what does he have left that he's able to do? He can play a dragon, but that won't kill us. He's only got the 1 card in hand. We have this Howling Gale and a Bard. That has to be enough to finish this, right? There's no, like, Cataclysm, free attacky kind of thing. Shunpo's not in standard, and so I think we're okay. Getting the Bard on board. I don't know our chime status at this point. What are we at? We only got 9 chimes and 15 cards. Opponent says that's too much. You boomed me too good, bust. GG. Well played. Let's pull this up. We can talk about it a little bit more. And so, yeah, I think, you know, right at the beginning, we covered off on the 2 versions of this deck. The thing that we're playing here, and then the one with bursting backpacks in it. The thing that I'll say to you is, at what point throughout the course of any of those games did you want bursting backpack, right? What point did you say, ooh, we just need a little something, right? We just need a little bit of juice, a little bit of gas. Bursting backpack, right? It never hits. It's only good in those games to where, like, you're in that spot to where you have Sunken Temple on the board for like 3 turns and you have 7 cards in hand and you can't actually cast all of your spells, and so you have some bursting backpacks that are free and you start to cast them. Like, it's not something that you ever realistically need. It's just one of those things that helps you, fire up the highlight reel. And so it's, if you ask me, it's just garbage. You don't want that thing in your deck. As far as this other stuff goes, I'm pretty happy with a lot of the numbers here. I could definitely see an argument for going up to 3 copies of Cosmic Binding to just ensure that you have more ways to help shoot down those big overwhelming units. That last game was exactly why we're out here playing Cosmic Bindings as they come at us with, a 12 attack Riven overwhelming quick attacking. Just being able to get that stun is absolutely huge. And this is a meta to where I could definitely see the inclusion of more Cosmic Bindings. Now, if you're playing in a best of 3 event of some sort, maybe that's not the case if you're just able to ban out the only Might deck. But laddering, this is something you're going to run into quite frequently, and I highly recommend the Binding. Otherwise, the numbers in here feel pretty good. It does sometimes feel like you run into a little bit too much card draw, and it does feel like the burn plan to face can be a little bit off. I feel like we're grinding to a lot of these games to where the opponent's getting down to like 2 or 3 health, and then we just don't have the burn to finish it. I don't quite know what the answer is to that now that Divine Whirlwind only deals a single point of damage and we only have 4 direct damage burn spells. It might be a matter of just removing some of the Eye of the Storms to kind of help in that sense, but a few of the numbers here feel like they need tweaked a little bit. The other thing is, like, I'm not super excited about Acorn. Like, he's fine on turn 1, and we did have some elusive rounds to where he was very important, but it feels a little bit off in that sense. And so those are the 2 things that I would approach, getting just a touch more burn in, maybe getting a 3rd Cosmic Binding in, maybe getting rid of Acorn, but it's pretty close to a strong deck, and it can certainly help carry you on to Masters as the season is ending here, or whatever your goal is. It's a fairly solid deck. Nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned a thing or 2 along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.